Hey, welcome back to the Aaron LeBauer podcast. I'm your host, Aaron, and today I have a special guest, Dr. Maria Wisman, the cheer doctor. Maria is a brand new physical therapist doing some amazing things in business, and thought I got to get her on the podcast to share what she's doing, because truthfully, I was on a call with someone a few weeks ago, and when I was telling them about some of the people in our program who are younger and what they're doing, she got really mad. And so I was like, all right, we need to share with people like what's possible. So Maria, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So tell us a little about who you are and what do you do? Let's start there.
Okay. So I am a physical therapist. I own the business called The Cheer Doctor. Just graduated in May of 2023 and started my business right away, right after school. I knew I wanted to go cash-based out on my own as soon as I graduated. So I actually joined Aaron's group, I think in March before I graduated, so that I would have all the systems and things in place so that I was good to go in May once I graduated. So I've been doing the cash-based physical therapy thing ever since I graduated in May. When I was in school and college and undergrad, I cheered at Ohio State, and I was also on the USA cheer team. So I always knew that I wanted to work with cheerleaders and specialize in that niche, because I once was a cheerleader. I have a big background with that. And then also cheerleaders are just underserved. A lot of people don't understand the sport. So it just made a lot of sense for me to niche into that area right away.
Yeah.
So now I work mostly with cheerleaders, not solely with cheerleaders. A lot of my physical therapy patients are just active individuals, active adults that want to get better. But in terms of personal training clients, and I also do some online programming for clients, those are all mostly cheerleaders and cheer teams that work with me for the strength and conditioning
That's
portion
awesome.
of what I do.
Dude, that's dope.
Yeah.
So, because I'm a little ignorant, there's cheer, but then there's dance, like kind of thing, and then there's like
Mhm.
stand on the sideline and not do cheer. Like there's a different kinds of
Yeah.
cheering that you do, because you're doing like acrobatic stuff where like some of your videos, you're spinning in the air faster than I can think. Right. So can you break down like what those different like aspects
Yeah.
of like cheer dance performance and stuff that there is, so we can have just context around what you're doing?
Yes. So it can be kind of confusing. So there is a lot of things that's called cheer. So you got school cheer where you're on the sideline, you have competition cheer where you're competing against other teams doing routines. And that's usually, you can do that in the school level or an all-star level, which would be club cheer.
Mhm.
You can cheer in college. You can dance in college and you'll also be on the sideline. So a lot of people confuse the dancers with cheerleaders. So there's lots of different
Right.
um, types of cheerleading out there. A lot of them are called the same thing, so it can be really confusing. My population that I work with are cheerleaders who are very serious about wanting to improve their skill levels in tumbling, stunting, performing. So cheerleaders that are competing,
Hmm.
and cheerleaders who want to cheer in college on a team that competes at a really high level, like at a national level. Um, that's who I mostly
Yeah.
work with.
Awesome. And are there in the colleges that have like this level of cheer, are they just like the Big Ten colleges with massive football teams? I mean, are there like they're there 4 or 5 top ones, or what's the? Because I went to Duke, like the cheerleaders there have improved over time, but they're not the same level of doing what you did, right?
Yeah, so I don't think that the school really has a whole lot to do with how good your cheer. It doesn't. So Ohio State, you are under athletics as a cheer team. So this is the big difference. Some cheer
Yeah.
teams can be considered under athletics and they get all of the resources to like strength and conditioning coaches, nutritionists, sports psychologists. And that is obviously very beneficial and very helpful. And those teams often do really well at nationals. But then you also have smaller schools, community colleges that are just have always been well known for cheerleading, like Navarro, TVCC. Those schools are not necessarily big colleges, but they just have a reputation of having really good cheer teams. So
Yeah.
you have kind of two different areas. You have the community colleges that are really good at cheer, and then you also have the higher the university programs that give more resources to the cheer teams that are
Right.
also really good.
Okay. Cool. Did Title IX change cheer, like, and scholarships and participation and stuff like that? Like, or, because I think if you think about like, I don't know, cheerleading in the movie Grease, like that's not, like what people traditionally
Yeah.
is like, it's not really sport and athletic, but like, man, what you guys are doing and my cousin's daughter does or did like is like crazy. Like it's awesome,
Yeah.
right?
I think Title IX helped, but I think that it's really dependent on the school whether they determine that you're under
Mm,
athletics or
yeah.
not. At Ohio State, we were under athletics, but we were not NCAA regulated. So we got all the benefits of being under athletics, but
Hmm.
didn't necessarily have to follow all the rules, which
Okay.
can be good and bad.
So the guys at the base, you could juice all the testosterone you want and
No,
not get in
no,
trouble.
no. We still had drug testing, but
Okay.
I don't think it was as regulated.
Right, right, right. Okay. All
They
right.
don't care quite as much.
Okay, cool. So that's awesome. So that gives me context. Like bicycle racing now, when I was at Duke was a club, but there's 3 or 4 colleges in North Carolina. It's a they have scholarships, for
Yeah.
bicycle racing. I'm like, whoa. Like,
So that's
yeah.
the other thing with cheer is even though we're under athletics at Ohio State, we don't get any scholarship money from the university.
Mhm.
So all of our scholarship money is raised through donors
Okay.
and people that have cheered
Gotcha.
there before. I think
Gotcha.
that's how it works for most schools.
And then there's like professional cheerleaders, like professional football teams, and that's still different, right?
Yeah, totally different. I probably wouldn't even ever make a professional
Yeah.
cheer team because it's usually more dancing.
Yeah.
And I don't have a dance background. So
Yeah.
there are some professional uh, level teams out there that do more stunting, tumbling,
Yeah.
traditional cheerleading, but they don't pay the best. It's not
Yeah.
like a career
How
usually
many
for
how many
people.
of your teammates were like were you a gymnast growing up and then you were like, oh, I did cheer. Like how'd you get into cheer and like where did like where are some of the
Yeah,
people coming from in this community and
a lot of people start with gymnastics and then switch over to cheer. I I guess I kind of did gymnastics. I did gymnastics when I was 5 and 6 years old, and then I
Mhm.
made the switch pretty quickly to cheerleading. So I wouldn't consider myself as having a big, strong gymnastics background. I know a lot of people make that switch. So and the sport is changing a lot. When I cheered, so I did gymnastics when I was 5 or 6. Then I switched to an all-star team. So it was like a club cheer team where I learned stunting and tumbling. And then I actually quit that in sixth grade, I think. And I just did school cheer, sideline, didn't really do much with it. In high school, I just did sideline. I never joined an all-star team again. But at the end of my high school career, like junior, senior year, I decided I wanted to try out for college. So I just started taking private lessons like tumbling and stunting to prepare myself to try out for a college team. Because college cheer is so different than high school cheer, is so
Mhm.
different than all-star cheer. So everybody's path looks pretty different. I've had people ask me, like, do I need to be an all-star cheerleader before I cheer in college? Do I need to do high school cheer before I cheer in college? And the answer is no. Like you can do a variety of things and
Yeah.
still cheer in college. You just want to make sure your skill levels are up to par.
That's awesome. So, did you know where you were going to go to school or did you try out for a couple like did you go to Ohio State because of, that you got on the cheer team or were you going there already and you kind of like tried on or walked on or whatever?
I knew I was going to go to Ohio State anyways. And when I went to Ohio State, the process to get on the cheer team was a tryout. Everybody had a tryout, regardless of if you were on the team before or new to the team. And you
Mhm.
actually had to know that you were going to be at Ohio State before you tried out,
Okay.
because tryouts are in May of your senior year. So now it's different because they don't do tryouts anymore. They do recruiting. So
Mhm.
some of my clients are getting recruited as juniors to cheer at Ohio State. And their options are a little bit more open than
Right.
when I was cheering or when
What
I was
did you
trying out.
do? So when you decided, all right, I want to go cheer at Ohio State, what did you do to prepare besides just doing like tumbling lessons? And what would you do differently if you went
Yeah.
back to coach yourself again?
Yeah. So I was doing tumbling lessons and stunting lessons, and I probably a couple times a week. And then I was doing some strength and conditioning on my own. But I didn't really have any guidance. I didn't have a personal trainer or
Mhm.
anybody helping me. I also ran cross country and track in high school, and I seemed to constantly have injuries from like tumbling and running. And we never went into the weight room as a cheer team. We never went into the weight room as a cross country track team. So I tried to do some stuff on my own, but I don't think that I really was able to reach my full potential with
Yeah.
what I was doing. It was good enough at the time to get me onto the Ohio State cheer team. Nowadays, it would not be good enough. Looking back at my tryout for Ohio State cheer, if I did the same tryout I did, I can't remember how long ago it was, 7 years ago, maybe. If I did that same tryout today, I probably wouldn't make the team. So now kids are having to start to take their strength and conditioning a little bit more seriously, get more help before they get to the collegiate level because it's just more competitive now.
Right. When did you find like strength and conditioning and weightlifting? Like where did that
Yeah.
enter the scene for you and what did it do for you? What was the
It,
benefit?
so I kind of dabbled with it a little bit in high school, but didn't have any guidance. And that helped a little bit. And then it wasn't until I got to college and started working with the Ohio State strength and conditioning coaches
Mhm.
that I really noticed a big difference and had a huge like aha moment of the strength and conditioning thing is what I had been lacking in high school, specifically the strength portion.
Yeah.
I had just been lacking. I was just weak. I wanted to be a flyer. Flyers are usually small, want to be light to be thrown in the air. So I always thought that lifting would make me bulkier. And then I got to Ohio State and I realized that the training program that they had all their flyers on was pretty much heavy lifting, getting stronger, and it made such a difference for me. It like reduced my injuries. I had all these aches and pains from running and tumbling in high school that just seemed to go away after a few months of being at Ohio State with their consistent strength and conditioning program. And then my skills just exploded. Like I went from barely being able to do, I mean, people might not know what this
Yeah.
means. A hand in hand stunt is when you do like a handstand on somebody else's hands.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even do that when I tried out with the best guy on the team my first year at Ohio State. And then 2 years later, I was doing like the hardest elites you could do and trying out for USA cheer and ended up being on the
Yeah.
USA cheer team. So I just had a big like exponential improvement in my skills. And I attribute a lot of that to being on a consistent strength and conditioning program and having all those resources that I did at Ohio State.
Right. That's awesome. So Ohio State has that, but a lot of schools don't. That's what
Yeah.
you're finding, right?
Yes, a lot of schools don't. Even D1 cheer programs sometimes don't. It just all depends whether the university sees you under athletics and if there's room for you in the weight room. And yeah,
Yeah.
lots of
Awesome.
variables.
So how'd you go from cheer to PT school? Was there like some experience you had where like I need to be a PT versus like a banker? Like
So a lot of my classmates have a specific injury story where they went to physical therapy and then realized they really liked it and wanted to do that with their career. I
Mhm.
didn't necessarily have a story like that, but I was a business finance major in undergrad and I just started realizing throughout the years that that's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to sit behind a desk 9 to 5, do that kind of work. And I had a lot of experience with like the athletic trainers and the medical side of things, being a part of a high state cheer team. And I knew that I wanted a job where I'd be on my feet helping people, kind of like those trainers were able to help me.
Mhm.
Um, so that's when I made the switch. I think it was around my sophomore, junior year of undergrad that I decided I wanted to go into PT and apply to PT school.
Yeah. When you got to PT school, was it what you expected?
Um, I don't think it's a yes and no. I don't think I prepared for PT school maybe quite as much as my peers did because I was an athlete in college and my schedule was really busy. And in undergrad, I feel like my main focus, I did well in school, don't get me wrong, but my
Yeah.
main focus was like always, how can I get better at cheer? How can I make the national team? So I would be traveling to compete at Worlds and doing my final exams at like a coffee shop in like a different state. So I made school kind of work around my cheer schedule, I feel
Mhm.
like. And because of that, I didn't get a whole lot of shadowing hours in the physical therapy clinics. So I kind of feel like I didn't know exactly what I was getting into um, because I didn't have that many shadowing
Yeah.
hours and didn't see a whole lot of that clinical side of things.
Yeah.
But I also think that it's hard to get a really good idea of what the profession is like just by shadowing. It's not until you like have responsibility for patients and start documenting and seeing patients in school, then you really start to feel like you understand what it all entails to be a physical therapist.
Right on. What happened? Like, was there something that happened in school, like, or experience you had where you were like, all right, I got to start a business when I graduate? Like, when did that like light bulb turn on?
Yeah, that I had always kind of been thinking about it. I was in a like private practice business group in physical therapy school. I would show up to some of the calls. So it's always kind of in the back of my mind. but I never took action on it until my second year going into my third year of PT school. I had a skilled nursing facility clinical. It was my second clinical. And I just started to realize that I did not want to be a physical therapist in the clinical setting, seeing multiple patients a day, documenting, having to listen to insurance, like only being able to do certain exercises for certain patients because it'd be covered by their insurance, and just like this whole hoopla of hoops you have to jump through when you work in the clinical setting. I just really started to despise it during my second clinical. And that's when I started my personal training business. It was called Everyone Should Lift at the time, because I was also really interested in working with adaptive athletes. So people who've had spinal cord injuries or amputations, I wanted to help them learn how to lift in a way that often looks different than the general population. And I named the business Everyone Should Lift because I wanted to work with these underserved populations, like the adaptive population, and then also cheerleaders who don't usually lift.
Right.
So I just made a Squarespace website one day, published some information, posted on Instagram, and then slowly started to get some local people interested in personal training. And that's kind of how I started the route of starting my own business and planning for doing the cash-based physical therapy as soon as I graduated.
Awesome. So before you graduated, like how much were you working? How much were you earning in your own business before graduating? Where were you?
Ooh, not very. I wasn't making a whole lot. It was just kind of doing it on the side. I also didn't do a great job tracking my metrics, but I was charging at first $40 an hour and maybe seeing 2 or 3 people a week. So I was not making that much money.
Yeah.
I want to say my best month was probably $1,000 or $2,000.
Yeah. So it was a couple hundred, a little under, about 1,000-ish. But that was probably was it better than driving Uber or working at Barnes and Noble?
Yeah. And it was what I wanted to do. So
yeah. And that's awesome. So then, if I remember correctly, you messaged me and were like, "Hey, Aaron, I'm going to be in Greensboro. Can we meet?" And I'm like, I get messages all the time. I was like, but sure, she'll be in Greensboro. So we met and we chatted, and you enrolled in the CashPT Blueprint what, December before you graduated, something like that.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, I need to wait and I need to do this. How'd you know that, what was the thing that whether it convinced you that this was the right program or really that you needed to start working now before you graduated on your business? How'd you have that conviction to know that I need to do this?
I just knew that I did not want to graduate and have a clinical job. I just knew that was not for me. A lot of people think that you need to have clinical experience first before you start your own practice. But I also had a lot of friends that wanted to start their own practice, and they went into a clinical job right after school to kind of boost their confidence, help prepare them to see patients on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them said that they didn't actually get any of the mentorship that they were promised. They were just kind of thrown into it, seeing multiple patients a day, didn't really get a whole lot of time to actually think about what they wanted to do with the patients. So they just kind of were going through the motions at this clinical job. And a lot of them told me that they didn't feel like it helped prepare them at all to start this on their own.
Yeah.
So I knew I didn't want that same route. I knew that I wanted mentorship in the business aspect, but also the clinical aspect. So I knew right away that I was going to have to join a business group or some kind of mentorship group. And that's why I reached out to you. I was super surprised that you answered, actually, because I figured he probably gets 1,000 emails a day, and I'm asking to come to his clinic and talk to him for free. And he probably charges a lot more to do these kind of consultations. But my boyfriend's family's in Greensboro, so we were in Greensboro for Christmas. And I was like, I'll just try and reach out and see what happens, see if I can just get in. And then I ended up scheduling an appointment, a physical therapy appointment at your clinic, so that I could see how the process went for a new patient. So I got to see all your intake forms and got to go through the process of a total body diagnostic and how that all works. And then after that, I got to talk to you a little bit more about business. And then that's when I joined the CashPT Blueprint.
Yep. That's awesome. And you
Yeah.
paid to be a patient in our clinic, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I got to see kind of how like the packages are, like I got to see how that whole process worked of how you get people to pay for the next appointment and what the
Yeah.
package deals kind of look like. And
Sounds like it was
I
worth
took,
the one-time investment,
oh
right?
yeah, it was for sure worth it because after that, I like wrote down a bunch of notes of exactly how the appointment went. And I started modeling my just personal training appointments after that. And I
Mhm.
immediately started making more money just
That's awesome.
with those notes that I took from visiting your practice.
That's dope, and that's really cool to know because I didn't really know that. I knew that I've offered this to people where I'm like, hey, I can't really do like weeks of shadowing because it just kind of doesn't. It's like there's. I know people do it. It's just not the way that I want to do things. I don't.
Mhm.
I hate. When I was shadowing, I was falling asleep. Right. I need to be doing
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But I've offered
I,
people to come in and pay, and most times people say, no, why would I do that? But I'm like, you experience what it's like for yourself, like you get a lot out of it, right?
yeah, definitely got a lot more out of that than shadowing. Like I kind of said already in my undergrad experience, my shadowing didn't really prepare me well
Yeah.
for understanding what the physical
Yeah.
therapy job would be like.
Nice. So the other thing that you did was you joined our mastermind before you graduated, and I think the
Mhm.
in-person retreat was the same weekend as graduation or walk-in or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. So I joined the mastermind. I went to PT BizCon in March and then I joined at PT BizCon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Joined the mastermind. And then the first retreat was in May during my graduation at the school.
Yeah.
And I decided to go to the retreat instead because that was way more important
Yeah.
than
That's
walking
cool.
at
So
graduation.
what I want to know is I think I think Aaron knows, but what I want people to understand is like, what was that process and decision making process for you to be like, this piece is more important than the graduation? Because like I have a lot of classmates that would never have done that. Like
Mhm.
how'd you get to that point where you're like, this is more important for my future than graduating, and that you'd be willing to miss it? Like, where'd that come
Yeah.
from?
Well, I think first of all, I joined the group when I was still a student making less than like $1,000 a month. So I really didn't even have the money to be in the group, but I knew
Mm,
I wanted to do it. So I just pulled the trigger and just decided to join anyway. And then immediately after I joined, I was like, okay, now I need to take this seriously and start getting a return on my investment in this group. And so I wanted to like take advantage of every opportunity that was available to me.
yeah.
And the retreat was a huge like jump start for me getting my business ready and was so much more important than just receiving my diploma by hand. I can receive my diploma in the mail.
Awesome. So I think like if I'm, what I remember is something like we got started in the program and you brought in like not, we set up a program for you even before you were licensed as a PT, and you made what, like 9K doing in your first few months. Can you tell us like what happened? What we do? How'd that
Yeah.
work? Yeah.
So the first call I got on with you after I joined the program was right, I think it was around March, April time, a
Mm-hmm.
few weeks after I joined it. And you were like, you're going to do this 12-week program. This is how much you're going to charge for it. So you kind of walked me through the process and like told me exactly what I needed to do. And I just took that information and ran with it and made like 12K that first month doing that program that you suggested.
That's dope. That's really awesome. I mean, yeah, that's like the thing that this person got mad at. I was like, this is what, some of our clients are doing who are new, and they're like, and it's, but I think the thing is you have less to unlearn. You were just like, just tell me what to do. You've also been used to being
Yeah.
coached, as an athlete. You're like, coach tells me what to do, I do it because I get stronger, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I think I'm just used to having a busy schedule. There's a saying that I read in a book somewhere sometime. I don't remember what it was called, but it was if you want something to get done, give it to a busy man. And that's just so true because I had friends in PT school who didn't do anything but PT, and they struggled the most to get things done just because if you have all the time in the world to do something, you'll never do it. Versus I was always at practice or had something else going on. So if somebody gave me something to do, I needed to do it immediately
Mm-hmm.
before I got distracted with other things. So that having that kind of busy schedule through undergrad and PT school helped prepare me for the busyness of the business world
Right.
too.
So being a business owner, are you busier now than you would be if you worked in a job, or is it different? Like,
I guess it's just different. I would say since I'm trying to grow a business right now, it's busier, but my time is my own. So a lot of the things that I'm doing is on my own computer, and I can do it at any time of the day that I want and any place that I want. So my schedule is a lot more flexible than if I worked in a clinical setting,
mhm,
even though I might be putting more hours in. Um, I also want to put those hours in, and I can do that at any time that I want. So it's a lot more fulfilling and a lot more rewarding. And I'm also building a business that's going to eventually give me some of my time back as I get older.
nice. That's awesome. So what does like Maria's week look like? Just general outline, like when are you working? When are you seeing clients? You've also got like this app, so you're doing different things in social media. Like, can you give us an outline of like some of the things that you do during the week and how that looks?
Yeah. So I will say one of my weaknesses is organization. I know a lot of people like wake up at an exact certain time every day and have a very organized schedule. I've been trying to get better about time blocking and doing that. But I feel like I have a lot of different things going on. So I do the physical therapy thing, I do strength and conditioning for cheerleaders, and then I do online programming app access for cheerleaders and cheer teams. Usually my day, I'll wake up around 6 or 7 and try to get a lot of computer work done, whether that's like Instagram reels, making funnels, adding to my website, email marketing, lead magnet type of things. I'll do that for a few hours, and then um, I won't usually start seeing people until noon and later. So a lot of my physical therapy patients are usually around noon or later in the day. I do a cheer workout class 3 times a week where I have a bunch of cheerleaders come into the clinic and work out with me. And then, other than that, it's calls sprinkled in throughout the day and throughout the week. So, cheer teams, the coaches will schedule calls with me to talk about their strength and conditioning program, and I'll tell them about the program that I offer. And then individual cheerleaders will set up consultation calls with me to decide whether they need physical therapy or strength training or some kind of online program. So, yeah,
Awesome. You got a
I
lot of
know
things
that's kind
going
of an
on.
unorganized
Yeah.
answer.
No, that's cool. So I think if there's one thing I was thinking as you're talking about that, I was like, let's talk about that. I think people would be interested in is kind of this combination of that like 12-week summer boot camp and this, like your cheer workout class that you run. Like you're doing in person, basically it's in person one to many training. It's not one-on-one physical therapy, and I think a lot of people are like, well, cash-based physical therapy has to be one to one because that's what's valuable. But what you're
Mhm.
what you're showing is that there's a value in one to many model. So can you just explain a little bit about your model, how you set it up, like what'd you do to get started? Like how does it work?
Yeah. I think the one to many model works really well when you have a very specific niche. So all the cheerleaders that come to me pretty much have the same goal in mind. So it's pretty easy to make a plan that aligns with all of their goals in terms of the workout session in person. And then they usually pay for a package. So I do the cheer workout classes in a 6 week package throughout the year. And then in the summer, it's just kind of a revamped boot camp where it's 10 or 12 weeks long. And I offer other additional bonuses for the summer thing. So they usually pay in packages and they get those 3 workout classes per week. And then they also will sometimes have more individual specific questions, and I offer them free injury assessments, like 15-minute injury assessments for anybody who has any issues during the class or wants to talk to me that's enrolled in that kind of program. So it kind of helps enroll people in physical therapy if they end up needing that one-on-one help, because that is also something that is um, they definitely need the one-on-one at certain times, but overall throughout the year they don't need that one-on-one. They just need some kind of program to hold them accountable for the rest of the year.
Yeah. And are they doing like is everyone doing the same 6 weeks blocks, or is it like are they buying just 6 weeks worth of classes and like a punch card kind of thing? How do you have that set up, and how's that working well for you?
And yes, in the In-person classes for the 6-week classes, they have the option to buy once a week for 6 weeks, twice a week, or 3 times a week. So there's 3 different options and different times so that if it doesn't work for them, they usually can find at least one time that works for them. And then they just renew every 6 weeks usually. And then for the summer program, I don't give them the option to do once a week, twice a week, or 3 times a week. It's just you have to do all 3 days a week. It's a summer boot camp intense. Like you need to be there for the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Did that answer your
Awesome.
question?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Okay.
think that does. Yeah. Cause I think, it's one of those things where it's like giving everyone a picture of like what you're doing and how you make it work. It's like, oh, well, like, oh, I can do that. Because I mean, I think it's like, so you've got a handful of 5 or 6 people doing it. Instead of seeing them each one-on-one for the day, you've got it in a group. And
Mm-hmm.
the level at which they're training isn't where you need to be monitoring them the whole time. You can give them all a lot of benefit and generate more money per your hour than you might be able to ask, one-on-one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a way to keep them with me for longer and provide them value for longer because they're getting access to me for a cheaper price point than
Mm-hmm.
what would be like a one-on-one scenario
Right.
weekly.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's beneficial to both of us.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. And then you also are doing some online programming with teams and individuals. I want to know a little bit more about that, but my question is are the in-person people getting access to that, or what's the difference? And, can you tell us a little about the online thing and how it interacts with the other parts of your business?
Yeah. So the online thing, it's named Strength for Cheer for teams that want to join it. And it's called the Making Mat program for individual cheerleaders that want to join it. Essentially, it is a strength and conditioning program that they get access through an app. So I write their programming specific to their skill level and position on the team. So, for example, there's like flyer versus bases options, and then body weight, basic, intermediate, advanced levels. So they get access to their specific program, 3 workouts a week in the app. And then they also get access to a band group. So it's kind of like a Facebook group, but it's what cheerleaders and cheer teams usually
Mm-hmm.
use.
Cool.
And that band group has everybody who's using my programming in there. And we do guest speaker calls. Like I had a Olympian and dietitian last month talk to everybody. Um, I'm having a sports psychologist come and talk with everybody. They can send in videos in that group of their cheer skills and ask me to review them, or send in questions about the lifting for the week or if they need modifications. So it's a little bit more than just a strength and conditioning program online. They get access to me via the band group, through Zoom meetings, and additional information with sports psychologists, nutritionists, and other aspects of other resources.
Awesome. That's cool. And so, it's individual access or teams, and the teams are paying like per team or per athlete on the team kind of breakdown, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. What's been the hardest part about getting people into that kind of program versus like in person? Like what's been the biggest challenge for you?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Part of the challenge has been that cheerleaders and cheer teams have previously not used the weight room, and it's just not really been a part of our culture to do that type of thing. Um, so part of it is like a little bit of a culture shift and trying to get them to understand how weightlifting is important for their athletes and how it will benefit them. And then the other part is when they see you in person, it's a lot easier when you have something tangible. You're getting access to an in-person service, so it's a little bit easier for people to justify buying into something like that versus online. They kind of have to trust you before they purchase the program because they're not necessarily gonna see everything that it entails until they're in there.
Right. Right. And so what are some of the things you're doing to build trust with people and, how re-educate them that like strength training is one of the things that they need? Like what are you doing
Mm-hmm.
right now to like kind of how do you fix these problems? Right.
Yeah. Um, a few things that I'm doing, I just try to tell my story because strength and conditioning was a huge help for me in my career, transitioning from high school athlete to collegiate and then the USA level. So I try to tell my story as much as I can. I created a lead magnet ebook about strength and conditioning for cheerleaders. So I give that out for free to cheer teams and cheerleaders who want help to just know a little bit more information about what strength and conditioning can do for them to help improve their skills. So those two things. And then I also just try to be as active as I can on social media, answering people's questions. When somebody posts in a Facebook group asking for strength conditioning advice, I try to give my advice when I can, and just I think I build rapport that way.
Yeah.
Just answering people's questions and being helpful when I need to be.
Right on. And so, you ended up with a pretty big like Instagram account. Like, how did it get big?
Yeah.
Like, what happened? And then what are you doing to kind of take advantage of that?
Yeah. So I think it was 2 years ago now. I was at an alumni cheer game. So every year, the alumni cheerleaders can come back to Ohio State to cheer for one football game.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just stunting on the sideline, and one of the videos that I posted from that game ended up blowing up and going viral, got like millions of views. And from that video alone, I got 100,000 followers. So
That's nuts.
it was just I just checked my phone one day, and all of a sudden I had like thousands of people following me, and it was just a really weird experience. But immediately, I think this was before I even started my business.
Yeah.
I think this also kind of gave me a little bit of a jump start to realize, oh, people are interested in this, so I should start learning how to profit off of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I immediately was like, I have all these followers now. How do I take advantage of this and like make money and help people off of this? And it was a lot harder than I thought. I thought just because I had all these followers now that people would just click on my links and buy things, and that is not how it worked at all. A lot of my followers, I will say, are not necessarily as active, and they came from that one video.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't come from over time. So what I'm doing now is trying to just continue to put value out there on social media and start finding out who my true followers and true people are that like my stuff. And then getting them onto my email list is the big thing. So offering them free things to provide more value for them, and then get them on my email list, and then just continue providing for them until they feel like they need me, and I can help them further with some of my paid offers.
Awesome. How, where'd you start with your email list? How big is it now? And what's been the most effective thing to move people from social media to email?
My email list started at 0 when I joined the mastermind in March. I didn't even have an email marketing software. I didn't understand any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And since March of last year to now, I've added 1,500 people to my email list.
Nice.
And the biggest thing for that has been the free lead magnet on ebook for strength conditioning for cheerleaders. So I just started posting it in groups, posting it on my social media, telling people about it whenever I can, offering it at any in-person workshops that I was doing. And it just started slowly building over time. And then I just recently started an ad for it at the last retreat in February. So I've only been running an ad for a couple weeks now for the book, but it's been adding like 10 to 20 people a day based off of that ad.
Yeah. Do you know how much you're spending on the ad, and how much are the leads costing you? Do you know that right now?
I spend $20 a day on the ad, and I probably get like 10 to 15 people on average.
So you're getting like
into my email
$1.50 to $2 leads.
Yeah.
It's pretty dope. So like, just for context, like it's been 6 years since I could get dollar leads, maybe more, like my leads are like $12 to $20 a lead, and I'm really stoked. So that's really awesome. So like, Maria, that's like one of those signs that, you've got like something that people want. I mean, the fact that you got a bunch of people organically, but then you moved it to ads, that's really great. So, tell me can you tell us like, how does the first ebook you put out, did it bring in a bunch of people? Were there a couple changes you had to make in this process to offering a free lead magnet?
I think I keep making changes like every day.
Yeah.
I think something that has helped me a lot is just your saying of 80% is good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So before, I would spend a really long time thinking about things, procrastinating before I put it out there. For this ebook, I just threw all the information from my brain onto a page and spent just a few days editing it, making sure that it was good to go. And then I just posted it to people who needed help.
Yeah.
And I realized it was helping a lot of people. And since I've posted it, I've gone in and made changes and edited it and added things to it. So it keeps getting better. But people from the beginning have told me they've gotten value from it, even when it was not my perfect version of the ebook. So just like doing things, implementing quickly has been super helpful for me. I've realized that telling my story and posting old videos and that type of thing has been leading more people to download it. So just honing in on my copywriting skills and all of that. I did try to do an ad last year, actually, like right when I made my first lead magnet. And I didn't really understand how ads worked. I probably shouldn't have jumped right to doing that, but I don't think I got like anyone to click on it. I can't even remember what it said in the ad. I can't even remember. It wasn't good. But so I have tried ads before a couple weeks ago.
Right. So
I just don't even remember what it said.
Right. Part of that lesson is you got to try things and fail at them, right?
Yeah.
Before you hit the jackpot on stuff. That's really great. So a few more questions before we finish up. Like, where do you see yourself in 3 years? Like, where do you want to take this business? Like, what's your ultimate goal with your business and why you're here?
Yeah. In 3 years, I want to have like 100 cheer teams on my strength and conditioning programming, working with them to provide more resources to them at the school level, teams that need it. And then I also want to be having the in-person physical therapy clinic to a point where I have other clinicians working under me so that I can step away and have time and place freedom when I need it. So I want to be working with a lot of people, mostly cheer teams online, a few in-person physical therapy and cheer clients, with also the option of being able to have other clinicians and people helping me to run the business so that I will eventually be able to step away a little bit more.
That's
in
awesome.
the future.
Very cool. What, if you had a couple pieces of advice or wisdom to yourself a few years ago or to other, maybe new grads or students who are thinking about doing something in business, what would that be?
I think my best advice would be to just do it, implement quickly. The more time you spend thinking about something, the more time that is passing with just opportunity wasted. So if you're thinking about starting a business, you should probably just go ahead and start anyways, and you're going to learn your lessons along the way. You probably won't do that great to start out with, but make sure you have a mentor, make sure you have people helping you, implement quickly. You'll fail a lot, but you'll learn a lot along the way, and you'll at least have people helping you, guide you through the process. So implement fast, get a mentor.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to ask before, clinical mentor, right? Do you have someone, like, what happens when a patient comes with a complex clinical case? Who do you turn to?
So I just turned to somebody in the business group, so in the mastermind group. So the mastermind group is good for business coaching and mentorship, but also everybody in there is in a different niche. So anytime I get somebody that's not a cheerleader or someone who has a complex case, I'll post it in the Facebook group mastermind to ask if anybody has any advice. And I've hopped on calls with some people on the mastermind that have helped me a lot with more complex patient cases. So
awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. I didn't even realize, I didn't even know.
Yeah.
That's cool. Someone had asked the other day, was like, well, I was told not to start because what if I approach someone with a complex case? I'm like, are you safe to be around someone with an arterial line, and not trip over it? Yeah, we're good. Yeah. We just need people to contact and connect with to help. So
exactly.
That's awesome. Maria, if someone wants to connect with you online, what's the best place to do that?
So they can connect with me through my social media. It's at @the_cheer doctor or at Maria Wisman. And then my email is fine too, mariawisman@everyoneshouldlift.com. Those are probably, and then my website, thecheerdoctor.com.
Okay, perfect.
That would be the best options.
Yeah, and you got some of the best cheer doctor swag that I've seen. You had like the laptop
I have it on
cover.
right now. You can't see it that well.
Yeah. Yeah, sweatshirt, all that. That's awesome. Where'd you go online to get all the swag printed up?
So I did a webinar for my strength for cheer program for cheer teams. I think I had like 100 people sign up for the webinar, and I had maybe 20 to 40 show up to it. I had no teams buy the program from the webinar. So I, again, acted quickly, learned a lot of lessons, got a lot of people on my email list, got a lot of benefit out of it, but it was my first webinar. So didn't have a whole lot of return in terms of seeing people join my program right away. But somebody on that call does logo designs and has a cheer team in a different state. And we did a trade. So I gave her my program to her cheer team, and she helped me create my new logo and actually new name. She helped me change my name from Everyone Should Live to the Cheer Doctor. So I got a whole lot of value from that. And since that webinar, I've had those teams on my email list, and they've been responding to me and communicating about starting the program at the start of this year. So even though it didn't seem like a huge success at the time, it's starting to pay back in other ways.
Dude, that's awesome. That's really cool. Like that's a, like some people go, oh, that's a failure, but you got some massive wins out of that. Thank you for sharing. That's really cool. That's really awesome. Maria, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. This was great. I'm looking forward to seeing how you just kind of crush it over the next few years. Hey guys, make sure you give Maria a follow. Check her out on Instagram. We'll have links in the show notes. And just go out and get started. And if you're a student, I think the message is, if you want it, just go get it. Don't listen to the people telling you can't. Find the people that are going to help you get there. Right, Maria? Wouldn't you agree?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome. So thanks so much for being here. Maria, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you on the next show. Have a great day.